on to After Fun with Brain. We're going to again resonate the real dhwani which we were talking about, opportunities, and let's knock the door of the opportunities. And as women, we always do that. Sab kuch possible hai. Everything is possible for us. So for that, I would like to introduce CA Priya Goyal. CA Priya Goyal. Yeah, yes, I would like to introduce her to all of you, and we are going to hear from her on amazing topic, which is she's going to enlighten us with the professional opportunities for Indian CAs in Canada. She is currently located in Canada. She is financial service representative, financial advisor. Let me talk about her skills are amazing. She's an excellent communicator. Her skills are financial reporting, budgeting, internal controls, IFRS, GAAP, new accounting standards, cost accounting, financial statement. Oh my God, I can go on and on with the list. You can really look at her profile. She's on valuation. She's on every aspect of it. Yeah. And we are so glad to hear from her on the opportunities we have in Canada as well. And Miss CA Priya Goyal is also a social committee member in CIBC Canada. She had also been MC in certain programs. We are very honored to have her in our session. Ma'am, this is for you. Over to you, CA Priya Goyal. We welcome you for this session. CA Priya Goyal. CA Priya Goyal, are you there? I cannot hear you. All right.
Deepika is there.
CA Priya Goyal, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Hi. Good evening, everyone. This is Priya Goyal. Thank you, Hannah, for the introduction.
Pleasure.
And yeah, good evening, everyone, as well, and good morning to those who joined from US and Canada. It's morning time here. So hope you all enjoyed the quiz. And over to myself now. So I would first of all like to thanks CA Ravindra Kaur, Chairman, and CA Geeta, the coordinator, for giving me the opportunity to speak on this women's conference here in Bangalore. So my topic today is professional opportunities for Indian CAs in Canada. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself, and then I have some, and then I will take over the immigration of Indian CAs to Canada, a small short overview of Canadian economy and market, professional opportunities to the what, when, and how, pathway to Indian CPAs, up to Canadian CPA for Indian CAs. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself. As you know, I am a chartered accountant from India, and I have done my bachelor's as well. So as I'm immigrated to Canada, I did some banking courses, and to let you know, I'm working at CIBC Bank at Greater Toronto area, and I'm employed since 2015. So CIBC is one of the top 5 largest banks in Canada. There are other banks as well, TD, BMO, and Scotia Bank, etc. So moving ahead to immigration of Indian CAs to Canada. So as an Indian CA, when we immigrate to Canada, the first thing it comes to our mind is to see the website. So the website is www.cic.gc.ca. So our Indian qualification is recognized under the skill category for Canadian immigration purposes. And so before we land, we have to prepare ourselves. We should know about Canada and how it works. So Canada is the only G7 country that welcomes a lot of immigrants worldwide. So there's a lot of competition. So we have to be open-minded. So first of all, prepare a checklist of where you want to live in, like Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, which city you want to live in. Make a budget. See, because there are a lot of expenses. It is you know that living in a foreign land, it's like a lot of expense comes up on us. So prepare for it. So the rental, like which where you want to live, in a condo, an apartment, or you want to live in a semi-detached or a detached. So there are the utilities also come with it. So make a budget of everything. Commutation is also one of the biggest expense. You want to commute from your from your home to work and back, and also like taking your kids for different activities. So commutation, and then comes the grocery expenses and the insurance. And like in India, we have car insurances. So here we have car insurance, home insurance. We also have the tenancy insurance. That's another big part of expense. So while we were talking about commutation, we should also keep in mind that we bring our Indian driver's license, because we have to prove that we were driving in India for a long time. So it helps us. So now we have landed. So after landing, there are certain other steps we have to follow. So first of all, foremost is to get your Canadian ID. So Canadian IDs are SIN card. SIN card is called Social Insurance Number. So it is equivalent to a PAN card in India. And then apply for a health card. Health card is important. You know why we moved to Canada? Because of the benefits of the health benefits that we get here. So apply for a health card, and when we apply for a health card, we are asked for a bank account. So go to a bank, and there are a lot of, as I told you earlier, there are 5 big banks. You can go to any of those banks, apply for a bank account. So when you are applying for a bank account, they will ask you for 2 pieces of ID. So IDs here would be your SIN card. You have to take all those along with yourself. So to take your SIN card, take your passport, that's called a foreign passport, and then take your COPR, that's called the confirmation of permanent residence. So then accommodation. So you have to be ready for depositing or having a 6-month security deposit in hand with you. So as we know here, when we land here, we don't have a credit history. In India also, we have to maintain a credit history, right? So when you go to a bank, along with applying for a account here, so that is called a check-in account here. In India, we call it savings account when we apply for a bank account. So apply for a check-in account, and then also apply for a credit card. It comes with a package. So you will get, once you get your credit card at your house, then you can start building your credit, start spending with your credit card only. So moving ahead, I would like to discuss, have a short overview of Canadian economy and market. So the Canadian economy is a highly developed market economy. It is the 9th largest GDP by nominal and 15th largest GDP by PPP in the world. Being a highly developed country, the economy is dominated by service industry, which employs about 75% of Canadians. That means every third person in a household is in service industry. And GDP per capita is more than 40,000 per annum. Canada has the third world largest petroleum reserve. We have a province here which is called Alberta. So it is known for its petroleum reserves. It is the 4th largest in natural gas and is considered an energy superpower due to its abundant natural resource, and has a small population of around 3.8 crores. According to Corruption Perceptions Index, Canada is one of the least corrupt countries in the world. So that's why we are immigrating here. Canada is a member of APAC, G7, G20, OECD, WTO, and USMCA. It was earlier NAFTA. When Donald Trump became the president, he changed the name, made it, it's USMCA means US, Mexico, and Canada. So we have a very good trade relationship with US. So as Indian CAs, the first thing when we are immigrating, the first thing that comes in our mind is the taxation. So we are more interested in what the tax slabs will be, and we know that Canada is one of the developed countries. Taxation will be high. So I've prepared a little slide for you. You can see the tax slabs in Canada for personal taxation. It consists of 2 parts, federal and provincial. So first of all, I would like to give you a brief description of the provinces here. So there are 10 provinces here: Alberta, British Columbia, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Newfoundland and Labrador, Nova Scotia, Ontario, Prince Edward Island, Quebec, Saskatchewan, and they are three territories. Unlike in India, we have three union territories. So we have territories here: Northwestern Territories, Nunavut, Yukon. So I've given you a short map also, like if you want to see Alberta, the abbreviation they are named as AB. So on the map, you can find here, here it's AB. This is how it is, the provinces here work. So now coming back to our taxation side, so our taxes consist of two parts: federal level means across the country, and then the provincial level, like pick any province. Okay, so here I've given a slab here. We have slabs. If the taxation income is from the range of 0 to $48,535, then the tax rate is 15%. Similarly, going below, if it is $214,000 and more, then 33%. So this is across the country. Now, when we come to a province, I have taken an example of Ontario. So if the taxable income ranges from 0 to $44,740, the tax rate is 5.05%. So going ahead, if the tax rate increases to 220,001 and above, the tax rate would be 13.16%. So given an example, suppose a person has a taxable income of 48,000 and above. So what the tax rate would be? 20.05%. Another example I will take, suppose a person has a tax income of 23,000, 230,000. And so what the tax rate applied would be 46%, 46.16, we can say. So this is how the taxation works in Canada. So moving ahead, I already told you about the provinces and the union territories. So, and the population is 38 million, as I discussed. So I have made a small chart here. So the main provinces here are Ontario, Quebec, British Columbia, and Alberta. They constitute about 88% of the population, and the rest is shared by the other provinces and the territories. You can see union territories. The territories, we have the three of them, they have very less population. So like if we see, Ontario has the province named Toronto, which is the biggest, we have the largest population here. Similarly, in Quebec, we have Montreal. In British Columbia, we have Vancouver, and in Alberta, we have Calgary. So these big cities share the maximum population of Canada. Now to our topic, professional opportunities, the what, when, and how. So the first thing we have is questioned here from coast to coast is that Canadian experience. So no matter how experienced we are and qualified we are, we lack Canadian experience. So we can gain that experience by start doing voluntary work, and we should be open to contract roles. Whatever opportunities come in our way, we should be open to take those opportunities. Second thing is the resume. So in India, we call CV, here we call it a resume. So make it a resume to be maximum of 2 pages. And then use the keywords to hit your job description and customize it as needed, but you have to be true and honest of what you are doing. Networking. So networking also plays a very important role in getting a job. So you must have heard about LinkedIn. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, create a profile, or if you already have one, update the one, and make a lot of contacts in the industry or area you are interested in and you have experience in. And make a list of, like, when you apply for a job, you will be asked for a reference check. So you get the contacts of all the seniors in the past you have, so that when while you got to get a job, you can refer them back for the possible reference check. So resources for professional opportunities, your contact and their contact in Canada, identify the companies you want to work for based on your experience. So there are recruitment agencies as well, like Robert Half, Michael Page. So when you go to the website of these recruitment agencies, you'll find that they have a lot of jobs there. You can make your profile there, and depending on which agency you want to, start applying there. So there are job portals also along with them, like LinkedIn, we already discussed, Indeed, Workopolis, and you can even apply on the company's websites. Moving ahead to Canadian certification and designations or job titles. So best ways to gain a local certification in the area of interest, including CPA. I will cover that in the upcoming slides. Be open to designations, as Canadian organizations are more leaner and does not have multiple job titles. Like in India, we have assistant manager, senior manager, AGM, DGM, etc. But here we have simple ones like accountant, senior accountant, financial analyst, senior financial analyst, etc. So finance and accounting roles that we find they are in great demand in Canada. Bookkeeper, accounts receivable and payable, business analyst, controller, cost accountant, financial accountant, financial analyst, director of finance, finance planning and analysis, payroll manager, property accountant, senior accountant, and tax accountant. Depending on the industry, like they're in construction, manufacturing, industry, technology, like because now online services are more in place, so more and more business expanding, telecommunication to support the remote workforce. The key skills needed. So they are key technology skills and key soft skills. So as a chartered accountant, we know we are all very good in Excel. So don't worry, we advanced Excel helps. So other than that, business management software, data management systems, some technical ERP systems, we all know about it, SAP, Oracle, and Microdynamics, payroll and human resources information, property management software, QuickBooks, and soft skills, we are all aware of it, ability to work independently, attention in detail, and since, Canada is a bilingual country, so French is also a spoken language here. You should be comfortable with change, commitment to continual learning, creativity, innovation, customer service, problem solving, writing, and verbal skills. So now our main focus is we want to get a Canadian CPA. So it's the pathway is simple. So first of all, the first thing we want to get is a letter of good standing from ICI before applying for registration with CPA Canada. Then there are some education requirements and there are some experience exemptions. So the education requirements are ICI members who are seeking Canadian. You know that there is a MOU between CPA Canada and ICI. So we are exempted from CPA professional PEP modules, but it's encouraged to take them, the Capstone 1 and the Capstone 2, just for the purpose of experience. Other than that, we are required to pass the CFE, is called the Common Final Examination. Experience exemptions. Assessment of post-qualification experience. So all members who are like more than 5 years of post-qualification experience and no recognized degree are exempt. And those members who have more than 2 years of post-qualification experience and a recognized degree are also exempt from the experience exemptions. So going forward to CFE examinations now. So the first thing that comes in our mind is the past exam papers. So you can go to the CPA website and even though you're not registered, you will find all the past exam papers. You can download from there and you can focus on that then. So here there's no, first of all, the best thing part is no handwriting. We are only typing on the laptop. So it's a 3 days examination. So I have explained it's the 3 days. Like day 1, we call it a strategy day. It's a 4 days, 4 hours examination. Day 2 is the depth day, 5-hour examination. And day 3 is the bread day, 4-hour examination. So day 1. So we are given, on day 1, the candidates are given a case simulation as an extension to Capstone 1 case. And we focus on a strategic view. So on day 2, so the candidates are presented with a large case to solve, assuming their pre-selected roles out of 4 options: assurance, taxation, performance management, and finance. Depth in core competencies are tested in the financial reporting and management accounting roles. Assurance and taxations are essential for public practice of CPA profession in Canada. So day 3, the candidates are tested with 3 case studies from 60 to 90 minutes duration each. Now the subjects we have are financial reporting, management accounting, audit and assurance, strategy and governance, finance and taxation. And we have several coaching options available. You can go to the different websites. Is Densmo DCS, PASS, and Prep Formula. You can go to their websites and choose which coaching options you like. And according to that, you can enroll on those options. Passing criteria. So there are 3 maximum attempts allowed for writing and passing CFE. So day one is assessed on a standalone basis for pass and fail, and day two and three are assessed together. So if a candidate passes in all the 3 days, day one, two, and three is a clear pass. If the candidate passes day one but fails day two and three, so you have to rewrite the day two and three only. If the candidate passes day two and three and fails day one, have to rewrite day one only. So I would like to thank again our chairman and the program coordinator for giving me the opportunity to speak in the women's conference. And my email here is priya31.canada@gmail.com. Also, I have given my LinkedIn profile here, so you can, if you have any questions, you can just email me and you can connect me on LinkedIn. So I can, if any help is needed, I'm always ready to help. Thank you for the opportunity again, and going back to the host.
Thank you so much, CA Priya Goel, for enlightening us about Canadian opportunities which we have as CPA. That is wonderful, and I'm sure we all would look forward for those opportunities. As Dhwani, we are talking about opportunities. Let's knock the door of the opportunities, and we have ample there as well. It was amazing to hear from you on what are the prerequisites in terms of skills, in terms of preparation, in terms of some of the key things which we require to work there, and what could be some things which we can really look at. So with this thought, thanks once again, ma'am, for wonderful presentation which you have given. May I request Bangalore branch to, to share the appreciation certificate, which is really for, yep, clapping. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Right. Thanks a ton for enlightening us in this area. And with this thought, we are looking at, as we are saying, that there are ample opportunities, and we all are resonating the same, whether it is in, Middle East or it is in Canada. In fact, so many sectors, whether it could be manufacturing, in your slides also, I saw even manufacturing, sports, there are every year, every area we can really knock the door. So it's amazing for women. We have a lot more to go and get into it. So with this thought, I move on to our next opportunity, which is again knocking the door from US. And I would like to invite yeah, I would like to invite CA Deepika Chok for wonderful opportunities which she's going to talk about. So, ma'am, CA Deepika Singh, where she's an executive director and immigration consultant, works at Santa Clara CA branch. She comes with an amazing, enriching 15 years of great experience, specializes in securing all areas of business, corporate, and family based immigrations. Her expertise is in immigration and non immigrant visas for many small and large corporate clients. And I'm sure we would learn a lot of things from her. She has worked with various corporates and ranging from startups to multinational organizations. We are honored to have you, ma'am. It's really an honor to listen to you. And again, another great opportunity in US. Would like to invite you to talk about that. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you for the opportunity, and it's a great pleasure to be on such a wonderful panel and be invited to speak and give people insights of how to come to the United States. We are a little different from America. Our visa process is totally different, but well, it's absolutely doable, and we welcome all qualified professionals to the US. How it technically works is, if you're looking to move to the United States to establish a career, you will first have to come through a work visa process. And how that works is, you'll have to first find a bona fide job offer in the United States, meaning a US employer can file a visa for you. The most common visas for the US are the H-1B and the L-1, and I'll just go over how the process works. So H-1B is pretty much sponsored by a US employer. How it works is, if you're trying to get the H-1B for the first time, what you need to do is, there is a lottery system which opens up on March 1st of every year. Now, what happened is this year actually, USCIS started a new process of doing a lottery for all the applicants. And then whoever was selected was supposed to file the petitions with USCIS for the H-1B visa. Now your employer is supposed to register you for the lottery. And once your case gets picked up, then the employer is supposed to file a petition for you. Now, when you're looking into the H-1B process, the most important thing here is that you have to have a bachelor's degree. Now, as I understand, CAs in India, they go through the whole BCom process, and then they do the certification and the articleship and everything. So the CA degree in India is evaluated as a bachelor's degree in the United States. It is not considered as a master's, so you do qualify under the general quota, which is about the 65,000 application pool. So the lottery system is divided into two options. One is the US Masters. So if you've done a US Masters from the United States, you have a 20,000 quota in the lottery. And if you fall under the bachelor's quota, which is any foreign degree, which equates to a US equivalent bachelor's, then you fall to the 65,000, the pool. So most of the CAs from India and worldwide will qualify for the general bachelor's degree quota, and they can apply during the lottery opening on March 1st through their US employers. Now, you have to get your degree evaluated, so you'll have to use an evaluation company, and you'll have to show that your degree is equivalent to a bachelor's degree. Those are the prerequisites for applying for the H-1B process. USCIS does two quotas. And this year we had two lotteries during this quota system. One was done in the month of March, and one was done in the month of August. We don't know if this trend is going to continue, because this year there was not many applications which were received. So, but technically you have two chances of getting an H-1B visa during a fiscal year process. If you already have an H-1B through any company in the past, you can be exempt from the quota system, and you can talk to any immigration lawyer, and they can guide you whether you will qualify and transfer that H-1B to another US employer in the United States, or a consular process. So you can work with any of the immigration lawyers and see if anybody can assist you in filing this H-1B transfer with any US employer. So if you have, do reach out to any immigration professional, and they can help you out with that. The other category to come to the United States is an L1 visa. Now the L1 visa is divided into two categories. One is the L1A and one is the L1B. Now, for either of these categories, you need a US employer. A US employer has to sponsor your visas. So, and the difference between an H-1B and an L is that in a case of an L1B, the L1 was created for an intra-company transfer, meaning that you are working for an overseas entity, and that overseas entity has US operations. And the company in the United States is trying to bring you onto the US. So they're transferring you internally from a foreign entity to a US entity, and they want to obviously give you a job offer. Now, in that case, there are two categories. One is going to be the L1A, and one is going to be the L1B. Now, the L1A was primarily designed for anybody who was on a managerial capacity or on an executive level, or somebody who was on a functional role. When I say managerial, meaning that it means that you are actually managing a team back in India. You have actually professionals reporting to you. So if you've been on a managerial capacity, you will qualify for an L1A. If you are on an executive position, like a director or a VP in a company, on an organization, then you can transfer yourself on an L1A executive capacity visa under the L1A program, and that is something which will work for you. If you are a functional head, meaning if you head the finance department of an organization, or the accounting department of the organization, then you can also explore the L1A for yourself, and that category fits fine for a lot of executives and managers who are working for overseas entities. The L1B is more primarily for individual contributors, meaning that if you are a single, if you're independently working in the organization and the domestic entity wants to transfer you to the US entity, then you can explore the L1B. The difference between the two is that the L1As require more of reporting structure. In the L1A, when you're trying to move, you have to have people reporting to you in the United States as well. So that's why it was created for managerial and executive capacity, employees. For L1B, there is no requirement of reporting. You can report to a US manager, but you don't have to have a team, or you don't have to build a team in the US. It's more for individual level and individual perspective. Now, for the H1B, you get a total of 6 years, if you're exhausting the 6 years, you have to be in the green card process to extend your H1B. L1B is available for 7 years and L1B for 5 years. Any period you have worked on H or an L is going toward, it will go towards that particular term of the H visa or the L visa, L1A or the L1B visa. What I mean is that if you've been in the US on an L1A and then you transfer to the H1B, eventually any period you have spent on the L will be counted towards the 6 years. To know. That is why when you enter the United States on any of these visa categories, as they are dual intent, please have your employer start your green card process, because that is your long-term ticket to be in the United States. So please have the employer start the green card process. That's very key to this entire professional career of yours. The H1B, as we're talking about Indians and Indian passport holders, these are the two visas which work the best. If you want to come here on a work visa category. Now, there are other visas which can also be of use to you. If you have a Singaporean passport or a Chilean passport, then you can apply for something called the H1B1 category visa. That also allows you work authorization in the US. If you have an Australian passport, then you can apply for something called an E3 visa. That is also very similar to the H1B, but the only difference is that you have to be an Australian passport holder. Now, in the United States, the most important thing is your country of birth. When you're filing a green card, your country of birth is taken into accommodation. But if you have a passport of any of certain countries, then you get privilege as far as work visas is concerned. So these are two different things. For work visas, you go by the passport, whereas for green card, you have to go by the country of birth. Now, when I talk about Australian, if you are, you move to Australia and you have an Australian passport, then obviously the E3 will work for you. If you're in Singapore and you have a Singaporean passport or a Chilean passport, then the H1B1 will work for you. If you are in Canada and you are a Canadian citizen, meaning you've already gone through the LPR process of Canada and you have a Canadian passport now, you can apply for something called the TN visa. So the TN visa there's a treaty between Canada and US, where they allow the Canadians to come to the United States and work here for a temporary period. The only difference between the H1B and all these visa categories is that H1B is dual intent, meaning you can apply for your green card and you can migrate to the US while you're in the US, versus the H1B1, the E3 visa and the TN visa does not have dual intent, meaning that you can only come here and work and continue to work. There's no limitation. You can stay here for a number of years. However, you can't file a green card. So that is the only limitation to these kind of visa categories. Now, if you're planning to launch a career in the United States, meaning that you are already an independent sole practitioner in India and you want to move to the US, you want to bring in your practice here and you want to do business in the US, the framed visa category would be the L1A. Usually they have L1As for new office entity setups. So you can try applying for an L1A. You'll have to talk to an immigration attorney who can help you with the whole process. There is a lot of things which go when you're filing the L1A and you want to set up business here. One of the prerequisites is obviously you have to have a US entity. So you have to incorporate a US entity. You'll have to make sure that you have a business plan as to what your growth is going to be, what is your financials, what is the 3-year plan you're looking for. So a detailed business plan will have to be submitted with the application. Plus, you will have to show USCIS the prospects of you hiring and building jobs in the United States. Now, there is no fixed number. It is all in your business plan, how you want to grow, how you want to hire people. Now, hiring people doesn't mean that it can be anybody in the United States who has a work visa or a green card holder or a US citizen. So what I'm trying to say here is that your business plan should outline the major factors of how your business will be established in the US and how it's going to be an advantage to the US economy. So, when you're working on an L1A or when you want to move your business to the US, work with an immigration attorney, create a good business plan, and then file the application. The other important thing in this would be that your India entity or whatever entity you have abroad, it could be India, Australia, whichever country, and the US entity have to be related. The most important thing on an L is the relationship either can be a parent, a subsidiary, affiliate, or a branch. So you can look at any of these. Obviously, the stock transfer has to happen. We have to submit stock certificates, share certificates to make sure that the relationship is documented, and USCIS is understanding that there is a relationship existing between the two entities. For an H-1B, none of this is required. There is no need to have any relationship between the entities. Any US employer can apply for a H-1B for you. But for the L, the relationship is a very, very important criteria. Coming to the EB-5, there is EB-5 visas also, which allow you to migrate to the United States, and you can work with some lawyer who does EB-5 visas. They can help you to file an EB-5, and again, a business plan will be required. You will have to go through the whole process of going through the paperwork, showing that how much are you planning to invest in the United States, what's your business proposal, what are you planning to build in the US. So EB-5 is another opportunity which you can look into and work with some lawyers who can help you with the EB-5 options. The green card process is fairly simple, but obviously tedious and time consuming. So when you come to the United States on a dual intent visa category, what you could do is you can have your employer file the green card for you, start the green card process for you. There are different ways, and there are different categories called, one is the EB-1, which is basically designed for the executives of the company. If you're coming here on an L1A, you can go through the EB-1 process. If you're coming here on an L1B or an H1B, you will have to go through the EB-2 or the EB-3 process. Indian nationals, their visa dates are very backlogged. It does take a long time to get a green card in the United States. There are people who have been waiting for 10, 15 years now. So that's why the advice is that please, as soon as you come to the United States, please make sure your employer is assisting you with getting the green card process started off, because it does take time. The other thing I want to bring up is there are a lot of these H1, there are a lot of dependent visas tied up to a lot of work visa categories. So for example, if you are here in the US on an H1B and eventually you are in your green card process, your spouse can actually apply for a your spouse on a dependent visa can apply for an H4 EAD, which can allow you to work in the US for any employer. So, but for this H4 EAD, you have to be in the green card process. You actually have to have an I-140 approved or a labor which has been filed for a year plus in order to qualify applying for this H4 EAD. Versus when you come here on an L1A, your spouse gets an L2 visa and they can immediately apply for an EAD. So L1A and L2 people have an advantage over an H1B worker. The L1A and L2 dependents who come on L2 can immediately get work authorization, and they can start working in the US soon as the authorization is approved. The other thing is, like, I understand that you have already gone through the, the redundant of, you have gone through the study education, but if you want to study in the US, you can explore the F1 visa option. Universities have a lot of programs during the, for the masters and for their bachelors, as far as accounting is concerned or the financial domain is concerned. So there are various programs which universities offer. All you have to do is enroll your admission in one of the universities in the US. Now, I would say go with a good university, make sure the university has credibility, is accredited. You can definitely go through the whole application process with the university. Once the university is convinced that you are admitted in the United States, then what you could do is apply for an F1 visa in India, and then you can come to the US on an F1 visa. How does the F1 visa help? Well, you get a US master's degree, and then you can apply for the preferential, H1B lottery category for the 20,000. That is obviously preferred over the, the general quota of the bachelors. So you can go through the F1 process, get a master's degree in the US, and then, it's just better for you, even for the green card process. The master's degree is advanced, and they have a separate, they have an EB2 category, which helps you to progress towards the green card process. So you can look into the F1 options as well if you want to, further educate yourself or study in the United States. There are other visa categories as well. There is the J1 visa, which is basically for exchange students and interns. Now, for that, there is not every US employer can apply for a J1 visa. You have to go through a process, DHS approved, state approved employer or an agency who can apply for the J1 for you. So J1s do have restrictions, and I won't touch too much on the J1s, but Indians do not get J1s directly all the time. You have to go through an agency who can apply for a J1 visa for you. Other than that, I would just say that immigration process going forward, there will be a lot of changes. Keep yourself updated with what's ever happening in the United States. We are going to see a lot of changes as far as the H1B filing is concerned. I mean, there is mixed talk about the increasing the quota for the H1B and making it a little more uphold for other nationalities, but we really don't know anything at this point of time. We will have to just wait and see what happens with the immigration field. Other than that, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. We are more than happy to help you. I will leave my email ID and my phone number behind. There are other options, like when you come here on a B1 and a B2 visa, just make sure that it's primarily used for meetings and you're not coming here and doing any billable work or any accountable work. Just restrict yourself on coming on B1 for any work purposes, because the port of entry officers are very stringent and very strict on your entries on B1, and they do cross-question and cross-examine and vet you. So just make sure that your B1 is primarily used for business visas. There is the B2 visa is primarily for leisure and vacations in the US. So if you're on a B2, you can come here and spend your time on vacation and have a leisure time here. But don't mix the B1 and the B2. Just make sure that the business visa is judiciously used. Other than that, I'm open for questions. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Over to you, Bhavna.
Thank you very much, Deepika, CA Deepika ma'am. It was a real good opportunity for all of us to hear and get the details in terms of visas, which are critical for us, and the do's and don'ts, which are very important for us to really get and avail the opportunities which are there in US. And, such an elaborate information which you have given, CA Deepika, which helped us to see what are the do's and don'ts when we come with, whether it is L1, L1A, L1B, and other types of visa. In addition to that, also, if we do not have that, if it is other visas, what could be done for the Canadian visa, which you talked about. Great information which you have shared with us, and it is real honor to hear from you. Great, and thank you so much for enlightening us in this area. I would like our Bangalore team to share the appreciation certificate for Deepika ma'am. Clapping to
thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, fair. Right. So with this thought, we are coming towards our towards the end of the program, where we have seen there are ample opportunities which we have as women. What could be done? What are the do's and don'ts which are required for us in terms of availing all these opportunities which are there in different countries. Now, I also would like to announce the winners of the questions which you were the panelists were having. Apart from that, I would also like to announce the winners of yesterday's conference. So that was another thing which I would like to announce to you. And in addition to that, I have three questions which I'm going to ask for today's presentation. And Deepika ma'am, and of course CA Priya, I would need your support in terms of the right answer. So the first question I have for you all, and the criteria for answering, as I said, is the first correct answer and the active participation. This is what we are looking at. So my first question goes to you. What is a major difference between L1A and L1B? This is for the US visas which we were talking about. The main difference between L1A and L1B visa.
So L1A, as I mentioned,
no, sorry, Deepika, I'm asking the question to the participants.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
no
sure,
problem.
Sure.
So what I would want you to share is, if at all, I do have the answer which I was listening to you, but if you are the master, so please correct me also if I'm wrong. So let's see which participant gives the first answer. Yeah. You have to give the answer. Whoever gives the answer first would be the winner. Okay. Ma'am, if you could read the answers also, that would be great. So Prema Vasu says L1A is managerial executives and L12 is for individuals. Both are for intra-company transfers. Okay.
So just to correct here.
Wait, Deepika ma'am, we'll just wait for a while if there are anybody
Okay.
else who are answering. Otherwise, you'll give the right answer to them. So
Okay.
let's see if there are few more people who are answering it. So Vijaya Kumari is answering. One is employer visa and other is visa to be applied by entrepreneurs. Okay. Okay. So another 30 seconds for this question. And then we can declare which is the right answer. Deepika ma'am, you could tell me which one is the best answer. Okay, the next one is V. Prasanna Kumari. She says managerial level supervision capacity, including US people, individual contributors. Okay. Okay, another difference is 7 years and 5 years. All right. So may I have the answer from you? I feel the answer is also for L1B visa. There is no requirement for reporting.
Yeah.
In L1A, there is a requirement for reporting. That is another answer which I have. So Deepika ma'am, you tell me which is the right best answer.
Sure. So I think Prema Vasu, no, I think it's Prema Vasu, right? She's pretty
Yes.
close to
Okay.
what she's trying to say. So the L1A is for managerial and executive people. However, L2 visa is for the dependents of the L1A. That's where I want to correct her. So
Okay.
L2 is for, if you are coming here on an L1A and you have a spouse and a child, then you will need to apply for an L2 visa for them. L2 is a dependent visa for the L1A. The second person, V. Prasanna, is also right. She says that managerial level and supervised capacity, that's correct. The L1A visa is for managerial level and supervision capacity people. And the L1B is for individual contributors. Now, V. Prasanna Kumari also talks about the 7 years and 5 years, which is correct. The L1A is for 7 years in total, and the L1B is for 5 years. So the combination of all the three is what, primarily is what the L1A visa is.
Okay. Sure.
So the best
Thank you
answer obviously would be Prema.
Right. So Prema Vasu, you are clapping to her for the right answer and the most appropriate or the connected answer. All right. My second question is from Canadian and CA Priya Goyal. I would require your support here. This question goes: what is breadth day for Canadian CPA? What do we mean when it says breadth day for Canadian CPA? What does it mean? What did she spoke about? What did she speak about when it came to breadth day for Canadian CPA? It came when it was about opportunities or pathway for Canadian CPA. That's why she spoke about different feature aspects. Breadth day.
Avna,
Yes,
Prema
ma'am.
Vasu has already answered and she won in first question. So
Okay.
it's other than Prema Vasu, anyone can answer. Otherwise, she
Sure.
will be giving a clue to others.
All right. All right, let's see what you have. Please write in. Please write your answers. Okay, it is third day of CPA exam. All right. The day 3 exam, which is for about 4 hours, it consists of 3 case studies for 60 to 90 minutes each.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
CA Priya.
Right.
Yes, CA
Yeah,
Priya.
Priyanka is totally right. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
4 hours.
Clapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So from my side also 3 case studies, 60 to 90 minutes each. Fabulous.
Yes, very
Coming to-
nice.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's amazing. And thank you, CA Priya, for correcting the best answer. So the award goes to Priyanka Madhwani, and we would like to clap for her. Priyanka Madhwani,
Yeah.
you have done CA. Great, great, great. Superb. All right. So let me go with my third question from Middle East. And I would like to talk about what did Middle East, when we had a panel, what did they speak when it came to attire to be focusing on? When they were talking about the attire, the dressing, what are some of the key things which we need to do when we are in Middle East? The attire, the dress code. What did they speak? The panel from Middle East. I hope I'm clear about the question. I repeat my question. What did the panel from Middle East speak when it came to attire, the dressing? Is there any dress code, or what did they speak in terms of dressing, attire? Okay, V Prasanna says should be covered fully. Okay, suits are suggested for dress code. Is Lalita Hegde talking about? Let's get a few more answers. And Geeta ma'am, do we have anyone from the Middle East team who are there who would like to? Otherwise, I will give the correct answer.
No, they already left. You can go ahead.
Sure, I can go on. Okay, sure. Salwar kameez. There is no restriction as such, but depends on the company they join. All right. All right. So I will go with the answers. I've got a lot of answers, and the correct answer is Netravati G 230946. Netravati G, where she talked about there is no restriction as such, but depends on the company they join. And I would like to also elaborate one more point. Just be aware of a little on a cultural aspect of it. When we are in any country, let's look at the cultural appropriateness of attire wherever we go. So try if we can go with that also is important. But yeah, there is no restriction as such, but we need to be a little more cautious when we are in any country. That is something which is coming in. The closest answer is there. All right. So clapping for Netravati Ji, where we are talking about it. Yeah. All right. So the first answer, I know I have got a lot of answers, and thank you so much for your lovely participation, dear participants, all the CAs. You all have been giving the correct answers, many answers which we got even yesterday. However, I would like to announce, based on the criteria, the winners are. First, I will talk.
Bhavna, you checked whether they are online. Yesterday's question, whomever got the correct answer, whether they
Sure.
today at this time.
Sure, Geeta ma'am. I would check that. So the first question, which was on suppression, as Archana Jain ma'am spoke about, okay, the winner is Ganesh S. Ganesh S. Are you online at the moment, Ganesh S? Okay. So that was for yesterday. We will check and revert on that. All right. The next question, which was from Sarika Jain ma'am, she asked that question, and I asked that question. Okay, Ganesh S is also online, ma'am. So definitely the winner. Clapping for Ganesh S. Great, 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 fantastic. Yeah. So that was a correct answer on suppression. All right. The next question I asked was from CA Sarika Jain, who spoke about for an inspirational speech which she had given, and the theme about her speech, the best answer, the first on the criteria is Lalita Hegde, CA Lalita Hegde. May I know if she's online right now? CA Lalita Hegde.
I think
You
she's
had-
there. She's answering all the questions. No.
So winner is CA Lalita Hegde. So clapping for her as well. Fantastic. I'm sure.
No, you just still check Bhavna. Bhavna, you still check
Yeah,
because
Geeta ma'am, she's there. I can see. Yeah. So you have to also put in smiley there. You know, I should see some smiley on a chat window. Then only I'll know that you are there. Okay, so let me announce. Fantastic, Lalita Hegde, CA Lalita Hegde. Now let me talk about the top 3 from the quiz which we had, and I would like to go with the names here again on the criteria. All of you participated, and it was amazing participation from everyone. Let me announce the winners. Siddharth Goel. Siddharth Goel, yeah, is one of the person. Yeah, is there. You have to be online.
Bhavna, this is top 3 highest correct answers.
Right, top 3 highest correct answers. Yeah. This is top 3 highest correct answer, which is Siddharth Goel. The next name goes is Prema Vasu. My God, Prema Vasu, you are really a very active participant. Yeah. So Prema Vasu is the another person. You have to really put in your Siddharth Goel. I would like to see if you are there. CA Siddharth Goel, CA Prema Vasu, and CA Padmalata. CA Padmalata. CA Padmalata, are you there? Fantastic. Okay. Siddhanta Goel, fantastic. CA Siddhanta Goel, clapping for them. Yeah, please clapping for them. It is really nice to see all of you. The next one, yeah. So I'll repeat Siddhanta Goel, Prema Vasu, and now I come to the next name is Padmalata. Padmalata, are you there? Padmalata, are you online right now? And the final name is
No,
Shri
two more
Devi. Shri Devi. Shri Devi. So let me repeat the name Siddhanta Goel.
Bhavna,
CA Siddhanta Goel. Yeah.
Bhavna, one more you left in between. It is Vibha.
Oh, okay. I couldn't see that.
From
All right.
quiz.
Sorry for that. Yeah, I couldn't see that name. Vibha. Vibha is the next name. So let me repeat all the names once again. For the quiz, the fun quiz which we had. One first name CA Siddhanta Goel, CA Vibha, CA Prema Vasu, CA Padmalata, CA Shri Devi. That is for today's quiz. And then we had for suppression yesterday, CA Ganesh S, and for Sarika Jain ma'am's theme, CA Lalita Hegde. And today we had CA Prema Vasu, CA Priyanka and Netravati. Okay, so these are the names for our winners, and I'm sure winners would be shared those vouchers, and you could click a link and you are going to be really seeing that. So with this thought, it was amazing being a part of this session. We really loved each and every part, and thanks for the great opportunity which you have helped us with, which we can explore and learn. Women rock. We as Dhwani, we all rock. And Dhwani name itself, we all were resonating the same theme since yesterday, that there are opportunities. It's just we need to believe in ourselves. If we believe in ourselves, we can definitely reach to the heights. So with this thought, I would request Geeta ma'am to come and share on how she feels. Okay, Geeta ma'am, over to you. And then we will have thank you note from CA Divya. Geeta ma'am, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, good evening, one and all virtually present here. At the outset, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the team of Bangalore branch of SIRC, headed by Ravindra Khore, for giving me the opportunity to be the program coordinator for this conference and giving me a free hand, I could say, in deciding the topics and speakers as well. So I acknowledge the presence of all the CAs joining us from abroad, and those whose presence elevated this conference to international conference. And I would like to place on record my appreciation to the moderator and the speakers joining us from 4 countries from the Middle East for the splendid display of coordination in presenting a wonderful panel discussion, bringing alive the physical ambience virtually. I would like also to thank my colleagues joining from US, in wee hours of the morning. If you ask them what is the time over there, really it's a very odd time. I wholeheartedly thank them for joining us for this women's conference, for sharing their views. And I'm greatly humbled by this 2-day conference had us hooked to the screen as we interacted with our professional colleagues who shared the rich experience with us, and we continue to pride to be part of this illustrious institution. The fun quiz and the like activities was a refresher amidst the hectic session work. It wouldn't be exaggerated to mention that it was indeed a wonderful experience to be part of this event. I thank our branch ITT head, Nitin, and his team members because still they are on their job, and Miss Lata Raj, who is coordinating with all the speakers from the day one, sitting along with me, and we were spending till 3 o'clock at night to interact with other resource persons who are abroad, and even I do appreciate their efforts, and they are coming online and interacting with us for fixing the topics and how to go about these sessions and all. And I thank wholeheartedly all the participants. So without you, this program would not be as successful, not only for participation, but also being with us since from the beginning, even for discussing the topics, what topic to be chosen and what need to be done and all. So I thank all the people to be with me for all the time. And I also thank Mr. Vimal, is a chairperson of Melbourne, and CA Ramananda Prabhu for being a constant touch with us for arranging this project. And I wish all my dear colleagues a prosperous year ahead. And thank you, one and all. Divya will be giving the overall vote of thanks for the 2 days, and don't think that I covered all the because whatever I have done, and this is my bottom of my heart, I'm wholeheartedly thanking each one of us for coordinating with us for this conference. Thank you. Hello.
So I would request, and I would now thank you so much, Geeta ma'am, for sharing and giving such a appreciation to everyone. Really, hats off to all of you sitting there, and 3 o'clock in the night also people were doing it. Hats off to the team, US timing, Canadian timing, and if you see how they have really supported us. I would now like to invite CA Divya to give a vote of thanks to each one of us for the great grand success of the program. Over to you, Divya.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Divya.
On behalf of Bangalore branch, I would like to take this opportunity for giving a formal vote of thanks for 2 days webinar for Women Conference, Dhwani. First and foremost, I would like to thank our chief guest of yesterday's program, that is none other than Srimati Dr. Tejaswini Anant Kumar, who is chairperson Adamya Chetana Foundation and Vice President BJP Karnataka, for spending a valuable time and giving us an valuable inputs. Thanks a lot, madam, for coming forward as a chief guest of our program. I also thank our guest of honor of yesterday, CA Anbu Mohan, who is advisory committee of Melbourne chapter of ICA Australia, immediate past chairperson of Melbourne chapter of ICA Australia. I thank you, madam, for again spending your valuable time and coming forward, and irrespective of the time constraints, you joined us from Australia. Thanks a lot on behalf of Bangalore branch once again to you. I also thank all the speakers. Since yesterday, many speakers have joined hands together and given us an excellent presentation. I would like to thank CA Archana Jain from Delhi for giving a input on smart approach to draft responses for SCN and summons, and for giving keynote address by CA Sarika Jain IRS. Being a moderator, CA Rupa Venkatesh has given an excellent presentation covering a panel discussion on converging boundaries, opportunities in Middle East. I also thank all the panelists for the panel discussion, that is CA Ashwini Savrikar, who is immediate past chairperson of Muscat chapter of ICA, CA Ria Bansali, who is joint secretary of Bahrain chapter of ICA, CA Rupalakshmi Shetty, who is a past chairperson, Doha chapter of ICI. CA Sangeeta Nahar, executive member, ICI Dubai chapter, Dubai, UAE. I also thank CA Sandhya P. Nagar and CA Sanjana Hegde for organizing quiz fun with your brain program. I also thank CA Priya Goyal, who is financial advisor, CIBC Canada, for giving an excellent presentation on professional opportunities for Indian CAs in Canada. CA Deepika Singh, LLP Executive Director, USA. I also thank you, madam, for giving a presentation on pathway for professional career for US, which was very, very informative, and I'm sure that a lot of women CAs would get opportunities from this. I should not forget our Bangalore branch chairman, CA Ravindra S. Kore, who has given us free hand to organizing this conference without any restriction. He gave full-fledged freedom to us for organizing. Thank you very much, Kore sir.
Thank you
All of us. Thank you, sir. I also thank Geeta madam for taking lead as usual, as every year. Madam is the first person to start this women conference, and with the support of Kore sir. And again, this is continued. Thank you so much, madam. Even though from branch you have elevated to SIRC, there is no difference we are feeling with that. In fact, your support to us has increased much more, a lot from SIRC after you have elevated to SIRC. Thank you so much. We look forward the same support every coming year for conducting women conference the same way, in a better way. I also thank all my managing committee members, my colleagues, that is B.T. Shetty sir, Srinivas sir, Shivram Bhatt sir, Panindra, and also Pampana sir from SIRC, who is treasurer now. I thank all my office staffs, admin staffs, IT team, especially Lata, for giving the hard work since last many days. Day and night she has worked forward to make this conference successful. Thank you, Lata, for that. Thank you, Nitin. Thank you, Manish. Thank you, our admin officer, Suryanarayan sir, for giving all of your best efforts to make this 2 days conference a very successful one. I should not forget Bhavana Dubey. Like, you have done your best, and we thank you from bottom of the heart for spending your valuable time for 2 days, and you're with us, and you have delivered your work as MC the best. Thank you so much for your best efforts.
Thank you
We
so
would,
much.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
on behalf of Bangalore branch, we would like to, physically we are unable to give you the certificate, so we're giving you a digitalized appreciation letter. Thank you so much for becoming the
My
MC,
God.
Master
I am
Certificate
honored.
last
I
2
am
days.
really, really honored. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for your best efforts. I also thank
Thank
all
you.
the print and media people for giving your support for us and making this conference successful.
Right.
It's not at the last. I would like to thank all the participants. Without all of you, our conference wouldn't be successful and wouldn't be active. All of you have very actively taken participation in this. Thanks a lot from bottom of the heart. Even though COVID, we couldn't meet personally, all of you have joined hands, given your time for 2 days learning, and like we have shared a lot of things together. Thanks for all the women participants for making this conference successful. Thanks a lot once again from my bottom of the heart. Thank you.
Divya, you have to thank also men also participated in the one.
Yes, sir, correct. For the
They have
first
taken
time.
the courage. In the first time of the history
Yes,
of
men.
women conference, they made it available for the men.
Right.
Of this COVID.
Correct.
Yes.
So I
I
must.
should never forget that. I'm sorry for that.
I thank everyone.
Thank you all
Yes,
the men
thank you.
participants also. For the first time you've taken part in the women conference. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, thank you.
Thank you. Kore.
Thank you. Yeah.
This is about the state level conference you yourself announced.
Yeah. Dear all, I am just, we are completing the 99 sessions in the between January and 100th session. Jnana Daso will be on 15th and 16th January, and 99 programs we are conducted, all free programs. Because of the head office guidelines, we are charging very nominal amount of 500 rupees for the 2 days. And we are having very, very eminent sessions from the T.N. Manoharan sir, Girish Ahuja, and MP Vijay Kumar sir. Stalwarts of the professions are addressing, and we are having an entertainment session only for the registered member can view live entertainment program from the very dignitaries from the Kannada industry. So kindly visit our Bangalore branch website and register for our 100th Jnanadaso webinar. And next our program is for this year 2020. We are closing with the code of ethics from our Central Council member CAG Sekhar is on 30th December. We have kept it that. We hope date will get extended. Thank you, one and all.
All right.
For
So
members,
Dhwani
for
rocks.
parents.
Ellaroke namaskara. Yeah.
Namaskara,
Dhwani
namaskara.
rocks. Dhwani rocks.
Dhoni, Dhoni.
Ellaroke namaskara.
Good morning to Deepika, madam. Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you, Priya,
Dhwani.
madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.